One of the most popular comments that I see on our channel is succession planting. How can I grow more food? And following our last video, and by the way, thank you for your wonderful comments on that, we shall follow that up with this, and I shall give you my 6 tips to be able to succession plant successfully. Succession planting is a method that extends the growing season and gives you more yields in your veg garden. If you already grow different vegetables in your garden that actually harvest at different times of the year, you're actually doing a form of succession planting. For example, broad beans that harvested in June, peas that harvest late June, beetroot that harvest in July. These are all actually succession plantings because they don't all come ready at the same time. Succession planting is one plant that follows another after it's given up its final harvest. And then you replace that first planting with another. The first thing you need to do is to do some research. So for example, I've grown 2 different types of purple sprouting broccoli. One, which is called Rudolph, will give me a harvest from December through to the end of February. The other, being Claret, will give me harvest from the end of March through to May. But this year we've actually decided to add a third variety, which is called early purple sprouting broccoli, and it should give us some harvest in November. You saw in our last video that we actually put some cauliflowers into the bed. They followed our onions, but there are 2 different types of cauliflower. One will give us cauliflowers in February, March. The other will give us harvests in April and May. But you will only know this by doing some research and finding out which varieties can harvest at different times when you need to sow them. Now when we get to late October and into November, clearly isn't so much to be doing in the garden. So do that research then. Once you've done that, tip number 2 is to make a plan. When do you need to sow it? When will it harvest? Will it give you your harvest at the time of year when you want them? I can give you lots of examples of the things that we've grown that give us harvest at particular times of the year. But let's not forget, each and every one of our veg garden is completely different. What I want from a garden might not necessarily be what you want from a garden. So do spend those long winter evenings researching. Make your plan. This is what I'm going to do next year. My third tip is to always be sowing. Have plants ready and ready to go into your plot as soon as the vegetables you have in that plot have given up their final harvest. I've got some dwarf green curled kale, which I'm about to put into our plots. They've actually been ready for some time. You can see they've got 1, 2, 3. They've actually got 3, in some cases 4 of their first true leaves. I actually sowed them back in beginning of June. But we weren't quite ready to put them in. That doesn't matter, so long as you have plants that are ready to go. As soon as the space becomes available, you can then put them into your plots. These glue onions are not very far away from us harvesting them, and you'll see a bit more about that in a future video, because we've grown these in order that we can enter our local show. And next door you can see there's a brune producing some lovely large shallots that we've grown from seed. They will actually form part of a new series that we have coming during the autumn months of how to grow from seed to table. So if you're not subscribed to our channel yet, then why not do so? And then you'll be notified whenever we upload a video. And I know that many of you have said, that's such a great idea to do some how-to videos. There's one or two of them that will come out over the autumn period. But for my fourth tip, always be thinking ahead. These are 4 to 6 weeks from their final harvest when we shall take them out of the ground. What's going to go in here next? What's going to feed me in 2025? Well, myself and Mrs. W have already thought about that. We've got some cabbages that we'll harvest next year. We've got kohlrabi that will feed us in the autumn months during October and November. We have some cauliflowers, we have some Romanesco. All of these plantings that will go in here once we harvest these will give us food to eat during October, November, December, January 2025, February, March, April. It's not going to be long, actually, before it will be next week. We're actually going to sow our seeds for our spring cabbage to either enjoy spring green or to let them carry on and become small hearts that we can enjoy during the hungry gap in May and June, until we see the harvest that we got this June. Where you can, try to block plant. It's a method that myself and Mrs. W have devised for ourselves. We've made a plan. You saw it in June, you saw it in July, and what you're looking at now are our harvests for August and September. So we're not planting complete rows of cabbages, we're not planting complete rows of Calabrese broccoli, we're not planting complete rows of Romanesco. We're just putting 2 of each plant in the row. In that way, we know that they don't all come ready at once. And we can enjoy a brassica or your greens, however you know them, at any time during the month without fear of them going over and spoiling. It also gives us a variety of veg to have. It's not just a cabbage, it's not just a Romanesco, it's not just a Calabrese broccoli. We can take one of each at any point during the month that we want to. Here is an example of complete rows of vegetables. And myself and Mrs. W, we don't do this until we want our vegetables for November and December. And that's because things like cabbages, they will hold in the ground. We can take one of those whenever we want. Whereas in the summer months, they don't do that so well. When it comes to the Calabrese broccoli, we actually don't mind having, at that time of the year, all the heads then coming at once, because we can harvest those and enjoy them, and they will keep in the refrigerator for a time. You can also freeze them if you really want to. We don't tend to do that. We like to eat them just so they become ready. But what will happen after that, and as you saw a little bit earlier in the year when I left 1 or 2 plants to grow on during the summer months, they produce side shoots. And they will go on to do that for 6 to 8 weeks, and you could be enjoying the taste of Calabrese broccoli all the way through until December, taking small harvests from each plant as and when they come. Now when it comes to carrots, don't sow them all at the same time. You can succeed this sowing. this row here, we can see we've been taking some out. That was the first row to be sowed. Next door to that, you can see they're a bit smaller, and they were actually now starting to become ready. And then the other side of that, this is where we sowed our latest sowing, which was some Chantenay Red, which will come ready September, beginning of October. And we want those because they make great carrots to be able to add to stocks and stews. But if you sow all of your carrots at the same time, sometimes they can go over and they're not so good. Self and Mrs. W know that in this row we have some really lovely, beautiful sized carrots. We've been enjoying these since June, and we'll go on enjoying them through July. We're almost towards the end of July, but they'll still be here in August. And then those one will be there in late August and September. But if we didn't succession sow them and we sowed them all at once, these would just be getting ever bigger. And you know, one of the absolute pleasures of a summer garden is a carrot that only gets so big. It smells amazing.
Tastes even more amazing.
And it's so sweet. And that's how you want to enjoy them during summer. And of course those carrots in the plots, they were sown toward the end of March, beginning of April. We did another sowing in May, and then we did another sowing in June. These carrots here that you see, these are part of a trial as well as being some lovely carrots for us to eat. But these were sown in June. They're a variety called Eskimo, and they'll give us some lovely harvests during October, November, December. Pretty good Eskimo are, they will hold in the ground. They're pretty unaffected by frosts. My other gamble is that they're in these raised beds, these vegegar raised beds. So I'm really hoping that we won't see any carrot root fly.
Because we haven't covered these ones like we cover every other carrot in the plots, don't we?
We haven't covered them at all. But also, because they're in a raised bed, hopefully they won't freeze and we'll always be able to access these. We can always change our plans and harvest them all if we think we can't do that. But I think we'll be all right. And actually, Mrs. W, if you come around here, look, these are growing really, really lovely. There is such strong growth there.
I don't need to get it. There we go. I think I can see it there. Yes. Lovely orange shoulders. Cover them back up. Lovely.
And as we're approaching the end of July, these carrots are looking really quite good. And I'm hopeful that there will be lovely long carrots. Because during the autumn months, I don't know about you, but myself and Mrs. W, we actually make lots of casseroles, stews. All year round we make our own stocks, which is one of the reasons why we use a lot of carrots. And as you saw in our last video, why we grow a lot of onions. But these really are looking good. And it's just part of our succession and follow on plan. And I can see here, Mrs. W, that look, our lovely little ladybird is keeping the aphids away and allowing these to grow.
Superb.
In this plot were our broad beans, and we had a great harvest off of those, and then we followed that with our sprouts. But actually we've been waiting just for these plants to become ready to actually add these into the garden. But what we have done, we've interplanted these radish. And these radish will be ready a long time before these other plants actually need the space. In fact, we have some scarlet globe that are ready now, Mrs.
Doesn't that look lovely? I do like the scarlet globe.
Yeah, they're a lovely, lovely, lovely radish.
Yeah.
And we can keep picking those. It won't be until probably September time that these sprouts are up here, and that these kale that I'm actually now going to put in, I need to put the other one in, will actually also be of some height. By then we will have already harvested all of these radish.
To be honest, those radish I popped in just over a fortnight ago, just over 2 weeks ago. They've been in. They were multi-sown plugs, and within 2 weeks we've already starting to get a harvest. That's quite fantastic,
Yeah.
really, isn't it? The ones down your end where you are now are French breakfast.
Yeah, these are the French
Yeah,
breakfast,
and
aren't they?
they're getting there, but they're not quite as advanced as the Scarlet Globe.
No,
But lovely. And the sprouts are looking really nice too, aren't they?
they are. They're really getting away.
Yeah, Trafalgar were they called?
They were Trafalgar,
Yes,
yeah?
yeah.
Want a piece? There you go. You want the rest, do you?
She's away. She
We've
does
got-
like carrots.
We've got plenty, Poppy. You enjoy it. You do all of the things that we've just talked about, and you can be as successful as myself and Mrs. W. Do you want to grow as much food as you can all year round? It's certainly our goal. I don't know you, but I take immense pleasure when Mrs. W goes to the supermarket and we just completely bypass the vegetable aisle and the fruit aisle. I like to do that in November, December, January, February and March too. Do let us know how you're getting on. Have you been succession planting just like we have? Let us know what you have been planting. But actually, along with these 6 top tips, one of the best videos that you can watch is this playlist that's coming up next, which is the Sow With Us series, because we've been doing those all through the year. And you can see exactly when we did sow those seeds that you now see in our amazing no-dig garden now. Have a great gardening week, folks. We shall see you on the next one.